We have a lot to discuss. So let's start doing it because, we do have a lot to discuss. There is some Google News, etc. As Ninka said, we have a link with all the news articles. That is quite fancy, isn't it? We've already shared it in the chat as well. And if you hear things that you think, I don't know what the heck they're talking about, which could very well be true because we talk about a lot of different things. That most of those things will actually be explained in the Yoast SEO Academy. If you are a Yoast Premium user, you have free access to all of our courses. If you're not, it's one heck of a reason to buy it. Anyway, let's go into Google News because there is quite a lot. They blessed us with a new Search Console URL inspection API.
Oh, yeah, this is cool. This is super nerdy, but it's really, really cool. It's been, since how long have we been doing SEO? 100 years. And one of the things that comes up time and time again is everybody's lives would be easier and we would be able to do bigger, better stuff if only we could get more data from Google, if we could find it easier to extract key information about our pages. Finally, they're starting to listen and respond. This is really nice. This is behind the scenes tooling that allows us to connect to Google Search Console and pull out data. So is this page indexed? When was it last crawled? What's Google seen on it? Are there any issues or errors or problems? This sort of stuff is really cool. We're looking at what we might do with that and how we might feasibly integrate it into different workflows. Yeah, this is a really cool toolkit. Very exciting.
Yeah, I was happy to see it and happy to see it go live as fast as it did. So no, it is it's really good for all of us, I think. And it's the sort of transparency we've long been hoping for. So I'm very happy to see it like that. And then they did this big piece about how AI powers great search results. And my initial feedback was it doesn't.
Yeah, we certainly see some mixed results. And in fact, if you go a little bit off the beaten track, there's been a lot of talk in the last few weeks in the SEO space about how actually more often than you might think, the results aren't great and the AI isn't providing incredible results. However, this was quite a nice piece. It's definitely fluff. It's definitely PR play, but it's quite a nice introduction into what's the history of Google's products that use AI and how does one algorithm evolve into another and layer on top of stuff. I don't think you'll learn anything profound from it, but if you're just wanting to understand more about how do their products fit together and what does the roadmap look like, it's just quite pleasant. It's not going to offend anyone or change the world, but yeah, it was a nice bit of an overview.
Okay, and then we had some very nice research by Zippy, actually. Is this Cyrus?
It is indeed Cyrus Shepherd, ex-Moz, who some of you may have come across, one of the smartest people in the industry, thinking of where Google may or may not use AI to good effect. Yeah, we've been grumbling about this for a while now, haven't we? Google started rewriting everybody's title tags and didn't allow us to change that, much in the same way they have with description tags for quite some time. But yeah, sometimes that's great and sometimes not so much.
No, and the funny thing is that his research shows a lot of things that we already knew, and we're already checking for. There were a couple of tiny things where we thought, hey, we can use this to improve our own feedback, so we should do some testing and figure out whether we agree with it. But I think most of it was actually very sensible. It was a good article.
Yeah, and there's some good tricks in there. Like it's fairly obvious that Google will find overtly spammy titles and try and make them less spammy. But there was also stuff around don't repeat the brand name and consider which way round you put your title. Do you say blue widgets from Acme or do you say Acme blue widgets? And throughout all of this, really, it's just about thinking about the user and how you communicate very clearly and very succinctly what this page is. Don't try and cram 1,000 words in there. Don't put all of your keywords in. Just really think about that trade-off between, yes, I want to optimize it and it needs to be relevant and it needs to be on topic, but really it needs to be succinct and really crafted. So I think if anything, the answer is put more time into crafting these, but don't be sad if Google ignores them.
I agree. So the next one, Google has a new search refinement, which is actually very, very, if not the most interesting data that Google ever gives you. What it
Yeah.
is you're searching for something, and Google is telling you what do people search after this, and what are related searches. All these things here that we see in just this screenshot here are keyword heavens. They can tell you so much about what people, how people search, and what people search for. That you should really use this. But this is very interesting, right, Jono? It's like we've been talking about these flows forever.
Yeah, and this, at the very least, this should be influencing your content strategy, right? You want to be looking at your keyword space. How do people search? And understanding that search quite often isn't just I type in a keyword, I select a result, I consume the content. Often I will visit multiple websites, I will refine my search. If I'm in a space I'm not an expert in, I don't know anything about cars, for example, I'm going to Google more than once, and I'm going to need some hand holding to understand even what the questions I should be asking are. So starting to traverse these journeys is really interesting. You can understand, okay, where do people want to learn more? What don't they understand? What kind of routes might they take? And as a publisher, you can go, okay, actually, we need to do a better job of answering these kinds of questions because we know that there's a journey there that people take. So yeah, this stuff is really cool.
Yeah, it literally provides you so much content ideas. And talking about journeys, the word was not entirely wrong, picked for without reason. They added journeys to Google Chrome.
Yeah, I haven't got this yet. I think this is still a little bit beta-ish, but this is like a layer on top of your history data. So you go into your Google or your Chrome browsing history, and it does like a grouping thing. And it says, okay, it looks like you've been, I think one of the example is for holidays. It looks like you are researching a holiday and you've Googled 20 things over 30 days. You've looked at 100 websites. This is all one ongoing journey. Do you want to pick up where you left off? Do you want to go back to that thing you saw before? I think that's more indicative of this kind of transformation where anytime I'm searching for something complex or where it's expensive or where I'm emotionally invested in the outcome, I don't just Google and visit one site. I go through this really big, complex site process. And I think the thing that we often forget as SEOs optimizing our sites is that users also see all these other sites. And it's not just about how do I write great content that answers the user's question. It's also about, oh, and what else have they seen? And how might that influence their perspective on my price? Or how might it change the kinds of questions that they're answering? So we really need to use these kinds of tools to zoom out when we're looking at those journeys.
It is very interesting. It'll be interesting to see when this rolls out for everyone and whether this rolls out for Google Apps users, because that might very well be why we don't have it, Jono. And then they had what I thought was the most horribly designed Google interface in quite a while, because this is neither here nor there. And
yeah, like just count the number of straight lines on that. It's really hard to tell what you're actually looking at. Yeah, not the best UI, I think.
No, it's horrible. But the idea in general is very good, though.
Yeah, so we've talked for ages about examples where e-commerce stuff gets lifted from websites and put into the search results, and you can look at things like stock availability and delivery information right there in the search results. This is what this is, but for editorial content, so not for e-commerce, for buying guides and researching information. And the example here has, I'm looking at baseball bats, and one of the questions you can just see at the bottom is, what is the correct length for a baseball bat? And if I open that up, I get more and more of these kinds of, here's news articles, here's recommendations, here's your options. Again, it's about helping guide the searcher through that journey. And again, this is useful for researching what you should be talking about, but also important to remember that a lot of your searchers don't know about your product, don't understand your space, don't even have the language to be asking the right kinds of questions. This is where we compete. This is where you go for discovery. It's where you win hearts and minds. It's where you help solve problems. This is the next playing field. So really, we need to be looking to answer these kinds of questions in our content.
Yeah, they're not going to make our lives easy anytime soon, are they?
No, for sure not.
And the funny thing is, if you don't do all these things in the way that they exactly wanted to, they might start guessing at what's on your page.
Yeah,
so
yeah, and this is risky.
Yeah, this is
where...
so
we go.
No, yeah, this is where Google guesses, and that's why it says approximately the price range of things that are on your page. And It's very funny that they do that, because what the reason they do that is because there's no schema markup telling them what the actual price range on that page is. So yeah, this is well, not ideal, I'd say. I would actually give them schema markup that gives the exact amounts of price ranges of products that you have on your page, and wouldn't let Google guess.
Yeah, I think that there's some tension at Google around how they handle schema and rich snippets and structured data, in that they really don't want to rely on us telling them stuff. They want to be able to work it out. They want to guess it themselves, because otherwise there's a chance that I might lie or cheat or get something wrong. And we've seen for a long time that they really don't want a system that relies on webmasters describing the content. So yeah, they try and throw all this AI at it and guess it. And you know what? They get it wrong a lot. And as a marketer and somebody running a website, I would definitely want to be using every tool I have at my disposal to micromanage and hand feed Google all of these facts and all of this information, try and at least guarantee that I'm representing my products in the right way, that it's not putting the wrong author on an article or 100 other things. So yeah, whilst they can guess some of this, they're not great, and control is really what you're aiming for.
Absolutely. Okay, so there we go. That was our Google News for today, although not entirely. We have one later on, but it fitted better with other news, so you'll get it later on. Then we had some Microsoft news. They've built
micro news.
Yeah, it's micro news. Let's call it that. It's micro news, but they've built a pretty big cars marketplace, it seems.
Yeah, I was saying just now, I don't know anything about cars as an example, and how would I even go about searching for one? Well, the answer, it looks like, is to use Bing. So on one hand, we have Google providing these kind of weird AI generated, what do people search for next? Go on this journey, and it's all a bit awkward and clunky. Looks like Microsoft have doubled down on how do we really craft and provide a tailored journey that handholds you through this kind of process. I don't know what's just happened to your screen. You've gone very
I
haywire.
was clicking on stuff, and
Don't click on things.
Give me 2 seconds and I'll
Back in a
fix
second.
it.
Yeah, so if I'm searching for a car, they will now take me through this entire journey, and it's very visual. It's very step by step. It helps me understand what I need to know. So Google are trying to automate this and do this from the content on the web. Bing and Stroke Microsoft are like investing into a slightly more editorial version. It's interesting to see who'll win. I think the Bing version is nicer, but can they scale that? Can they resource it? Do they employ enough people with enough hours to build this for houses and pizzas and every other industry? Or will Google win on just automating it? Oh, well, maybe not.
Because
maybe not.
In a way, if this works with just the US, it might actually make enough money for them to be interesting.
Yeah, and they don't have to do it for every single sector. They just have to do it for sectors where there's money to be made, right?
Yeah. Okay, let me.
There we go. We're back. Seamless.
It was very nice for a very short while. Okay, and then Microsoft also had Bing News PubHub.
PubHub. Yeah, people should not be allowed to name things. Didn't we have PubHub in WordPress years ago?
Yeah, no, PubHub was actually a standard by Google that we implemented in WordPress, and now Bing has Bing News PubHub, because that all shortened to a very nice abbreviation, BNPH.
But yeah, so if you're struggling to work out what this is, don't worry. I did too. I read the article about 5 times. This is the same as Google Publisher Center, but for Bing. You log in, you tell it that you are a news website, you point it at your news articles and categories, and they attempt to digest that and do some news stuff with it. I haven't been able to play with it because I don't have my hands on a news website at the moment. I do see Barry Adams was in the chat earlier. I'm sure he has some opinions on this as like the world's preeminent expert on news SEO. Maybe he's got some opinions, but yeah, this is Google Publisher Center, but light.
Barry.
I've got to be nice about him, otherwise he says nasty things about me behind my back.
No, it's true though. He does know a lot about that stuff. Social news. So we have this whole discussion all the time about, should this be a tweet or a blog post? And apparently Twitter wants to preempt that entire discussion by saying, should this be a tweet or a Twitter article?
Yeah,
I honestly think that in no case ever it should be a Twitter article, but
Yeah, there's a really strong argument against long form content on Twitter. And it's that if you're writing that sort of thing, it probably is better off on your blog, on a website or a domain that you control, that you're growing an audience and building a newsletter and gaining, etc. All the good SEO stuff. So yeah, if you're writing articles in Twitter, they're maybe just going to be lost to the wind. There's no guarantee that they're going to be discoverable next week. It's a little bit vague. It feels like a little bit of a stretch for them. So you watch this space, but I don't envision us building our empires on Twitter.
Okay. So Instagram, and I'll let you read this title because it's hard enough.
There's a lot of capital letters there, isn't it? Instagram adds new features for safer internet, yada yada. Yeah, the short version of this is Instagram has really upgraded its kind of overview tools. So they've made it much easier to go in and see how am I representing myself? I want to browse through the history of everything that I've engaged, interact with. How do I come across? How am I managing the access to my account? And a whole bunch of other stuff. It's about really about that, the platform kind of leveling up and maturing. So I think it's very easy to dismiss. And then here we go. The same for YouTube. Almost exactly the same story. YouTube engaging in investing in better content management tools, better detection. This is both platforms growing up. Whilst it's easy, as I was saying, for like we kind of overlook these because they're just they're social media outliers and just islands. But these are really sophisticated, mature ecosystems now, and you need to think about how that integrates with your SEO strategy. Where do I publish this? Can I republish things in different formats? How do I get links and traffic between these? Which bits sell? Which bits are for discovery? This is much more now than just how do I get my site to rank. We need to be thinking about how do I help how do I help audiences discover me across all of these platforms, and these platforms are now ready.
Yeah, and it's almost as though we have been talking about holistic SEO for like the last decade for a reason.
Yep.
The funny thing is there's other tech news that'll impact us quite a lot. And we've only been talking for 22 minutes, so we have quite some time to rant about this, which I like. There is a lot of things to talk about. First of all, Wix is doing extremely well. They are building nicer and nicer features, and I cannot do anything else than commend them for it. So they now have proper ways of doing multilingual sites, something that WordPress still does not have, even though we have wanted it for years. So
yeah,
well done, Wix. But let's make sure that we get this in WordPress. Then this made us laugh a bit, didn't it?
Yeah, this has been coming for a while. I'm sure everyone here has come across Google Fonts, and chances are you're browsing websites that use it daily. In fact, probably even this site does. Everyone uses Google Fonts. And typically the way as a webmaster you install Google Fonts is you go there, you pick your font, and you paste the code in. However, the way that works is you load that, as a user of that site, you load that font from Google servers. And awooga, GDPR, privacy issues, all sorts of problems. I'm leaking my IP address. Google run their own analytics. And exactly as we anticipated, Germany has, as ever, ahead of the privacy game, has slapped various sites with various fines for leaking that information. Now, the good news is there are better ways to use Google Fonts. There are GDPR-friendly ways. It's just never really been on anyone's priority list, but now it is for obvious reasons that there's money involved. Hopefully we will see more people doing this the right way, if not only for privacy, but also for a whole bunch of speed reasons. We really shouldn't be loading resources cross-domain, especially not from enormous international conglomerates based in America that don't have very strict privacy rules. So yeah, good vote for privacy.
Yeah, well, and we're not done, because that was
no, step one.
That this is Google Analytics. Same problem, same solution.
Almost the same problem. They're subtly different. So yeah, everybody uses Google Analytics. I want to measure all the traffic to my site. And there are ways to do that in a privacy-friendly way. If you tick the right boxes when you set it up and you implement it correctly, it's generally GDPR-friendly. However, all of the legal analysis coming out of France at the moment and Australia is saying that even though most of the tech is friendly, the fact that the data that it records about European citizens gets transferred to servers in America causes a whole bunch of issues. And there have been standards and protocols to handle that, but now it's being decided that they're not good enough. So everybody is panicking. Maybe Google Analytics is technically illegal. Nobody really has an answer to what that means or what we do about it yet. Watch this space. But this is the same story. Absolutely. This is, don't just put stuff on your site and think that it's okay. Really interrogate what data is flowing where. Yeah, because this as well.
because this GDPR is the gift that keeps on giving. It is absolutely incredible to see what's happening here. So the IAB is the Internet Advertisers Bureau, I think officially.
Yeah.
But it's literally everyone who runs ads is combined into the IAB. They came up with these consent pop-ups that we saw everywhere, which is why all these consent pop-ups looked sort of the same. Turns out they're not good enough, because actually nobody is really explaining why you give consent for 22 trackers on an average domain. And nobody really wants to do that either. The thing is, if you actually ask consumers whether they want to be tracked, then you can see on the iPhone and what happened to that recently, that people don't want to be tracked. If, however, clicking no will result in me not getting to the website I want to look at, then I'll probably click yes. Or if you annoy me into clicking on yes, then I'll probably click yes. But nobody wants this. So instead of working around the GDPR, it would be so nice if people actually understood why the GDPR is there and started acting accordingly instead of trying to work around it. But yeah, this means that the consent pop-ups that we've seen on a lot of sites are unlawful and will need to be changed.
And all the technology stacks behind them that power all the advertising networks and all of the adverts and all the revenue behind those industries. So that's just a small thing.
Yeah, just a tiny small thing. And then this came up as well. And this is actually Google doing a bit of a legal thing as well. They're saying that they're planning to make a privacy change similar to Apple's, which everyone likes, because when Apple made the tracking change to all of their apps, life did actually improve, I think, for everyone using iPhones. But they're saying that they're going to talk to everyone in the industry about it, and then for the next 2 years or so, keep everything online so that everyone can train their advertising models on whatever it is they're rolling out next, and then move to it. I think that's a bit of a shame. I would rather have them switch to Apple's model like tomorrow.
Yeah, that's a brave move, isn't it? And that hurts everybody's bottom line. Well, at least all the big players. So yeah,
it hurts Meta in a very real way. Meta's latest numbers said that they were literally losing loads and loads and loads of money. Well, Facebook, it says still here on the title, the company's called Meta these days, but yeah, it wipes a lot of Facebook's market cap, and Facebook's not alone. Other people are worried about this too. But yeah, it is a very interesting space to look at. And related, we have some Shopify news, and we've of course been talking about Yoast SEO for Shopify, but this was what happened in the last few weeks to Shopify stock, and it's not really good, is it?
No, this is really fascinating, because I think the last 3 or 4 webinars, we've shared some really exciting, genuinely exciting stuff that Shopify is doing around merchandising in China and new technologies and SEO stuff, etc. Yet you look at their share price and it is, for want of a better phrase, tanking. And having done a whole bunch of reading around this, the thinking is everybody is nervous about how all of these privacy changes will make it much, much harder for individual smaller e-commerce companies to market direct to consumers, because it's going to get harder to advertise, it's going to get harder to target, and it's going to be much more expensive to do it where you can do it. You're going to have to be much broader, much less individualized. Retargeting is going to be harder. It's going to be harder to build email newslists, etc., which got us thinking that maybe we need an alternative to just throwing money at adverts in the hope that you can reach a consumer. And if only there was some kind of organic there we go. If only we had some kind of way to optimize your positioning and listing in search results when people were in your market looking for the problems that you solve. Sponsored by. Yeah. So I think the thing is, this will hurt advertising and paid advertising. It makes SEO all the more important, and it makes content marketing all the more important.
And the funny thing is, this happens about every 5 years, where suddenly
Yes.
everyone realizes, oh wait, SEO is actually a great way of attracting traffic without overpaying all the time. But in a way, this is tragic, right? I mean, we have good friends at Shopify, and we wish them better than this. But at the same time, the concern that these people trading in their stock have is a very real concern. Advertising will get harder, which is why SEO will become more important again, and why a lot of the things that you learn from doing SEO will be important to both your SEO and your advertising strategy, because more so than when you do retargeting and other things, you need to think about, hey, what are they searching for? Which words are they using? How can I reach them in the best way possible? Where is my audience? How can I make sure that audience gets to my website? All of that is still very relevant, and it's the art of SEO that you can learn at the Yoast SEO Academy as well. We've done a couple of releases recently. We have fixed things and enhanced things. It's not really huge new features that we've released, I'll be honest to say, but sometimes you just need a few releases to clean up after yourself and slowly improve code as you go along. The teams are hard at work on a lot of nice new stuff. Then we're not done yet, so don't go anywhere, but we're already announcing to you that we'll be back next year.
Next month?
Well, maybe
and next year, hopefully, but next month first.
Next month, certainly. And that's it in terms of slides, which is good because we have lots of other things to do.
Yeah, we got a lot of questions.
I know. I saw questions coming in, and it was like there's too much of them.
There's fast. But I guess we can go over a few because we have some time. So that's great. Let me start with the first one, which has a lot of upvotes as well. It's a question from Ole. I hope I pronounce your name well. And I think it's a question that a lot of website owners have. And that's the question from a SEO perspective. Luckily, we know stuff about that. How do you make the best use of a sub-page, for example, a blog post, attracting much more visitors than a main page, for example, a homepage?
First of all, this is not a problem.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Everything is fine.
This is how life is meant to be. I'll tell you this story about an article on Yoast.com that I wrote in 2008 called The Definitive Guide to WordPress SEO. We still have it on Yoast.com. It still drives a lot of traffic, but it used to drive 95% of the traffic on Yoast.com for months on end. And it's fine because it was dead on target on what I wanted to be known for and what I wanted to do. So if this link is actually giving you traffic for a topic that you want to be known for, then everything is fine. Now, the problem is if that thing is getting traffic for things that you don't want to be known for. Then there is a very simple solution. You delete the page.
Okay.
Yep. Build an audience, build a reputation, get your logo in front of people, etc., etc. You don't even need to try and convert them necessarily. What you want to do is be known as somebody who solves the problems in that space.
Yeah, and get them on your mailing list, get them to follow you on or to like you on Facebook, get them to follow you on Twitter, do all of the things. Build your list, build your audience.
And not in Twitter articles.
And not in Twitter articles, no, because then Twitter articles won't get traffic like this. So, yeah, good question, though, Ole. Thank you.
Cool. So then I'll move on first to the question of Kichel. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. But the question is SEO different for Bing and other search engines? And should you do anything different than for Google, I assume?
You want to take this one, Jono?
Yeah, sure. Not materially. All search engines are trying to do the same thing, right? They're trying to crawl the web, understand all the pages, and serve the best results. There are some minor differences between the features, but generally, if you're doing all the good stuff like we teach, like, I don't know, write content that your audience wants and make sure that you've got a decent website that loads reasonably well, etc., you're going to do fine in all the search engines. I wouldn't worry. And how much traffic do you really get from Bing or Yandex? Even if you are doing really, really well on there, it's still going to be a percentage of what you're doing on Google. So it probably makes sense just to double down on doing the good stuff.
Cool.
What he said.
Okay, thanks. I think we covered this a little bit when answering the question of Ole, but what is a best practice if you find outbound links in your website? Do you have to consider that they are driving traffic to other web shops and maybe you lose customers because of that? Why are they so important? What's the risk or what's the benefit?
So outbound links are important because you are part of the web. However, outbound links on your product pages are not as important as outbound links in your articles. So by all means, feel free to remove them from product pages if they are driving traffic away from your product pages. I don't think that anyone really will object to that. At the same time, do realize that the web is the web for a reason. People like to go around to read more so if those links are helping people, they might actually also be helping them in making a buying decision for you. And if for some of your customers another product is actually a better fit and that's not your product, sending them to that other product and making sure that they get the best fit for them in the long run is probably the best solution for you too. A lot of this is the long term. It's always SEO in many ways is the long game. It's never like the short term wins. That's not what's going to help you in the long run. We really want to optimize and to build a brand and to get that reputation, be well known for knowing stuff and for helping people, and for also not caring as much about how much money you make from them, but for genuinely helping them.
Two thoughts on that note. One is one of the traps that a lot of people fall into when they write content is they write about themselves and about their business and about their product and the things they want to say, which isn't useful for users. It's not helpful. And it means that content doesn't engage, it doesn't convert, and it doesn't encourage people to link to it or share it socially or any of those other things. But if you're starting to include links to other sites and other sources, it forces you to write in a way which considers that here are other resources, here are other things that we should think about it, and it makes you less self-referential. That's powerful. The other thought is that there's a street in the city I live in that is beautiful and lovely and wonderful and has a phenomenal reputation, and every shop on that street is loved and praised by the people who live there and people around the country. It's internationally famous, and the reason why is all those businesses are interconnected. The baker recommends the florist sources flowers from the local field that the farmer uses to sell, yada yada. All of these things are linked. This is a web. They recommend each other, they cite each other, and they are all better and stronger as a result of it. And they win over other businesses time and time again. And the businesses who don't engage and interact with that network fail because they don't get recommended. They're not seen to be helpful. They don't build communities. This is a no-brainer. As Yoast says, the web is a web. Treat it like that. It's not just about you. It's about your audience.
Awesome. That's a great example. Thanks, Jono.
Happy to help.
Okay. Here's a question with a lot of upvotes as well. It's from Katie, and she wants to know how important are story tags for SEO.
Katie will have to explain to me which story tags she means, because I can think of like 3 different ways of answering that, and I'm not entirely sure which one's the correct one. Katie, if you're still here, could you leave a comment on that question and then saying what you mean with story tags, and then we can probably give you a better answer than if I just start rambling now, because I don't like bullshit answers.
I hope these 7 people that voted are looking for the same answer that Katie is looking for. Okay, let's move on. Keyword research is always a big part of SEO. And Gregory is wondering what the best SEO strategy would be when trying how to figure out which keywords you should use.
Okay, so keyword research is probably the most underestimated part of SEO. It's also probably the hardest part of SEO in many ways.
And the most tedious.
Yeah. This is not the same for everyone. It's not the same for every industry. So I learned SEO in 2006, 2005, around that time. And I was at an agency at the time where we did a lot of SEO for companies in the vacation space, to the point where I had entirely huge lists of keyword combinations for vacation, home, city, flight, origin, destination, and then all sorts of variations on that. That, to me, was my first keyword research. But honestly, what you really need to start thinking about is that journey that we talked about in the beginning of our news story, of what are people searching for when they need to find me. So backtrack what you're doing. So you end up with them buying your product. What would be the steps before that? What would they have searched for? And then try and cover literally everything along the way. So try and be there at the end when they are very specific about the product that they want to buy, but also try and be there in the beginning when they're starting to do their research. Now, being there in the beginning is usually the hardest part, because as you go back up in that funnel, the words will become more generic and it will be harder to rank for that stuff. But it is good to start to think about this whole process of how do people get to buying something. And there's hundreds of ways to think about that. I've always liked the AIDA model of attention, interest, desire, action. There's tons of different models around this. None of them are mutually exclusive or even good. But as long as it just trains your thought. And the funny thing is, in the chat, a question is popping up that is exactly what I'm always telling people not to do. So my preferred tool for doing keyword research is my brain. You really need a human brain. This is one of those things where it's actually better to use humans. Now, it's very important that you use the language of your consumers and of your visitors and users. And if you don't speak that language, if you don't know which words they use, then it could be very helpful to just start answering support emails for a while, or be on the phone and listen to how they describe your product. Look at what they use to describe your product and then start thinking around that. And well, then you'll get to that. But it is hard. And the stupid thing is that you have to think about all this, and then you do have to get to a list.
Yeah.
You do have to get to a list of things that you're actually going to write about. So you have to throw all these thoughts and start writing, and then compile this Excel spreadsheet or Google Sheet or whatever you want to use of all these words, and start saying, okay, so which one is the most important to me? And then you can start using some tools to figure out how many people are searching for these specific things and what is the best thing to start working on. Now, that was a very short version of an entire course in Yoast Academy called Keyword Research. And I would really, really recommend that you take that course, because it's probably the most important thing you'll ever learn in SEO.
The starting with your brain and asking the right questions, I can't overstate. Like, there's a wonderful example I keep coming back to, which is in 2016, I think. I bought a new TV, and I probably Googled something like whatever size, whatever, yada, yada. The interesting point is in 2014, 2 years before that, I Googled fuzzy sound on my TV because my current TV was a bit poorly and I wanted to know whether I could repair it or needed to replace it or what my options were. And that set of search results and the forums I saw and the help articles and the brands whose logos I recognized there influenced everything that happened next. That was a journey. And the brands who were there had recognized that, yes, okay, we need a piece of content that helps people understand and problem solve and troubleshoot. And I went, yeah, okay, that's really helpful. And then when I did a next search, I saw their logo again and I saw their site. I'm more likely to click it. I'm more likely to trust them. And then 2 years later, I buy from one of those brands who I've established trust with. It's not just about cherry picking the keywords that look like they're the most lucrative. It's about solving for those journeys and helping people through them.
Cool. Again, a great answer. Okay. We have time for some more questions. I have one question with a lot of upvotes from Ashley, and it's about page titles and H1s. So who can I...
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's one of the things that I actually wanted to look at when I saw that article. So in that article, they say that there's a title H1, that title, a mismatch between the title of the page and the H1 on the page would lead to Google changing the title. I think that because most of the examples I saw in that article were actually for very optimized titles versus not so optimized H1s.
Yeah,
I don't think that it really matters if they slightly differ. But if you go for an over-optimized title, then Google will turn it down.
Yeah.
Because that's what he's showing in other bits of his article as well. Basically, the over-optimized bits get toned down a bit because, well, Google isn't taking that anymore. And I think they're right. So if you're using your target key phrase 2 or 3 times in your title, Google will probably start rewriting your title to only include it once. And so I was understanding it more in that tone than that it necessarily has to be exactly the same. I don't think that that's the case.
It's a little bit anti-spammy stuff.
Yeah, so it's one of those it depends answers.
We'll get some more probably. Let's see. I just quickly checked if Katie has answered to the question about the story tags, but she hasn't to my
This is such a pity.
knowledge.
Okay.
Yeah.
That will remain a mystery.
Yeah, that will remain a mystery. And I think the question of Eric is pretty interesting for other people that already have a long-term site, like a pretty old site with a lot of content on them. Because his question is about the URL structure and how to rethink that and actually go about that when you want to change something about the URL structure of a well-established website. Is there a lot to do harm or is there a lot to do good?
It's not going to improve your rankings much, honestly. So if you don't really have to, then don't. If you do have to, well, then clean it up and make it better, etc. And then, but in the long run, the effect of actually improving these things are minor.
Okay.
And URLs are not becoming more important in Google search. It's only less so.
Yeah, and one of the nice things about WordPress, presuming you're on it, is that you can decouple a little bit the URL from the page where it is in the site and where it sits in the site hierarchy. Yeah, definitely focus more on the site structure and the relationships and internal links between pages and where stuff sits in navigation. Again, we've got courses on this in the Academy, but the URL itself, not a big deal unless you're really stuck with something that's definitely wrong.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions you saw from the list that you would like to pick up?
Well, I saw the question from Sherry, and I just want to touch on it because should we be using AMP or Jetpack Site Accelerator? And well, what's the story on AMP, Jono?
I wish I knew.
This is coming from someone who's supposedly on the AMP Advisory Council, or what is it called?
Yeah, the AMP Advisory Committee. Yeah, I like AMP. AMP is still good. AMP still exists. AMP is still healthy. Other people have different opinions. I think if you were picking a tech stack to build a new site on and optimize it today, I'd maybe start with questioning WordPress.com before you start questioning AMP versus Jetpack. But really find the best one that's for you. They both have different constraints. They'll both have different pros and cons. The AMP project is flailing a little bit at the moment due to some lack of direction from Google's side, but we'll see where it goes. Barry Adams in chat there saying it's dead. That's not the case. It's very much alive. It's a healthy open standard independently of Google. It's still good. I still use it on my site. Many sites use it in the real world. Yeah, do your research. AMP is really good, but go check it out.
Yeah, in many ways, build a fast site. We don't really care how, as long as you build.
Nor does Google.
That's the long-term solution: is pick anyone. I don't think that there's really going to be a silver bullet to building a fast site other than just doing the work.
Or AMP, which is the silver bullet. That's the point.
I see the question: how important is having HTTPS combine multiple forms now in chat? Having HTTPS is fairly important, not just for search, just because you're on the web and you want it to be safe.
Yeah, how important is putting on trousers before you go outside? It's important.
Let's use a seatbelt in the car for that as an example.
Yeah.
Okay. We have a few minutes left, and I want to use that time to first do a quick call to everybody listening in to upvote your favorite question. I think we can do one or two more.
Yeah.
And as well to click the shiny button at the bottom of your screen to make sure you are signed up for next month's webinar, which takes place on March 29. So we would like all of you to be there, of course. So now we have a few minutes left. Let's see which ones we can go over this time.
I like the Bianca's question. It has the most votes, so let's start with it.
Cool.
If you're linking to phone, email, WhatsApp, should you mark these as rel no follow? Honestly, I don't care. Do you care, Jenna?
No, I think if you have an enormous site with tens of millions of pages and you've got technical crawl problems, you might start to say, should we try and craft some internal crawl logic and maybe tactically no index some less important, no follow some less important links? Maybe. Outside of that, no, spend time on more interesting things.
The only thing I will say is that Bing is probably so incredibly bad at taking out these things that throwing on a no-follow might actually save you some stupid Bing crawls.
Yeah, that's true.
But other than that, for Google, there's no real reason to do this.
Okay, cool. I had written down one question from Hannah, but I'm not sure if it's still in the lists. It was about schema on product pages.
I've just seen that one saying, does Google only replace it or Google only improvise if it's not there? It's not clear. There's been some different statements from different bits of Google. This came up in one of the recent podcasts that they do as well. I think there's a dream from them that they want to just do it themselves. I don't think they're capable yet. I would overcompensate by providing them all the information you can, i.e. via using Yoast, and just hope that they don't do what they've done with titles and ignore it and change it and get it wrong.
Yeah. I'm thinking very much which sample I should click on my soundboard.
It's that time.
Because the chat has obviously been asking for me to do that. So
yeah, we can't.
Your sweet words have moved me. Your sweet words have moved me.
Wow, and there we go.
Yeah, now we're very happy, right?
No,
it is what it is. I think we can call it a day, right? And thank everyone for being here.
Yeah, I think we had great participation, great questions. a lot of news. And
okay, cool. Well, thanks everyone.
Yeah, thank you. We'll see you next time.
See you next month.
See you next month. Bye-bye.
March 29th. Bye.